unless we want to wait a minute. Okay, so I'll call the Planning and Community Development Commission meeting of January 29th, special meeting to order. And will the planner please call, or will
I can call, yes.
clerk please call the roll?
Chair Evers,
Good thing I look close to
Commissioner Drysdale,
Present.
Commissioner Hambrick,
Present.
Commissioner Cram. Present. Commissioner Schwartz. Commissioner Scott. Present. Commissioner Cromer.
Present.
Okay, we have a quorum. So is there any audience business that's not part of the public hearing? Either from the Zoom, there's no one in the audience other than the applicant for the public hearing. So hearing nothing, I'll move on to the public hearing on resolution 2024-02, resolution of the Town of Lyons, Colorado Planning and Community Development Commission recommending the conditional use for a detached accessory dwelling unit at 431 Evans Street. Which planner will do this staff report?
That would be me.
Okay, Alex.
Acting Chair Drysdale, thank you very much for filling that. So, yes, we have a detached ADU application, 431 Evans Street for a detached ADU. Per staff review, the dimensions, building standards do meet to our code, setbacks as well. The floodplain would require a floodplain development, floodplain permit, as well as a building permit, which will be handled through a different department upon approval, if decided, if that is the decision upon this. This, detached ADU is, 431 Evans is a big parcel, but not only that, but the applicant is willing to provide a good form of more affordable housing for the town. That's the direction he plans to take, as well as with our comp plan and ambitions lately with our housing assessment. ADUs is probably one of the best uses of land as of right now, just to try to fill in for those 1-bedroom additional housing units. We don't find any flaws within the development itself through review. We do agree that with the applicant, which we spoke many times, that this is in alignment with our comprehensive plan, as put in our staff report that follows many policies and goals. And I would like to hand it over to Mr. Halstein to finish the presentation.
Commissioners and staff people, thank you very much. And I want to start by saying, I think my application, my experience is proof that what the town is engaged on now, which is looking at new ways to approve ADUs, can really be beneficial to human beings in the community. I was very much prepared to be here at 5:30 for the trustees meeting. The communication around this is complex. As you know, there's a floodplain development permit as well. There are many elements that go into getting this type of a project approved, so I can't thank you enough for being here in this case. Yes, in essence, what we are trying to do is build a garage with an apartment above it behind our house. We are surrounded by a number of other ADUs that include some lovely neighbors who work at Main Stage Brewing. There is actually a pottery shop with people who are producing pottery there. And we really appreciate that aspect of our alley and want to participate in it and provide an apartment as well. So the nature of the application, I hope, is straightforward. We did employ a great architecture firm in Longmont to really coach us through some of the details on this. And we've tried to basically shape it so that there's no request for any variance of any kind. My understanding is we're going to be flood venting the ground level to prevent water rise due to the building's presence in the floodplain. We've designed it in a couple ways to be friendly to our neighbors. We instructed them to bring the form and mass down. We're going to be at least 2.5 feet lower than the main house on the build. We are going to be using a similar style and architecture as the main house, so we think hopefully we'll find it visually pleasing. If people are okay with the current house, they'll like the design here. And beyond that, I'm delighted to answer any other questions, both about the project or the experience of trying to get an ADU on the town line.
I have a question. It's probably geared towards staff, but I saw you submitted this back in September, and I'm questioning what's happened since then, or where are we having a
Yes.
emergency meeting on January 29th?
The applicant, Mr. Halstein, did submit it around just the end of September. We started the review. We were in talks for a while. We had quite a few meetings with his architectural engineer, Rebecca, who did a fabulous job, by the way. And then once staff started taking the angle at looking at the change in the processing for detached ADUs from conditional to administrative, I did bring that to the applicants to I shot him the idea where he wanted maybe possibly want to be the first contestant to go through the new approval process. We were on board for that, so we did put it on hold. But due to interest rates and other things that come into play with time and money, the timing of the essence was becoming a problem. We couldn't wait any longer to get this process going for him to be able to build an ADU. So we decided to push it back to the original conditional use process.
May I comment on that
Sure.
from my experience? So I was enthusiastic about being part of this update. You know, the ADU process is typically taken on by your average citizen, not a developer who's familiar with these processes. And I'm enthusiastic about that, so I wanted to participate and be helpful on that. But what became clear over time was the first meeting I attended, I thought there would be action taken. I didn't realize that there was going to be multiple readings or instructed, and then additional 30-day waiting period for the law to go into effect. And basically, yes, I have borrowed money and hoping to do this year,
Okay,
and that's why I'm deeply appreciative of you being here.
okay. And the only reason I asked the question, because I think in the past, things have developed slowly, and we've always wanted to look back and say, okay, where were the holdups? Were they reasonable? And so that was my main intent of asking, just to look at, are there opportunities for us to streamline the process and just make it easier on applicants?
I think the staff's current work on this is gonna be very, very helpful. One other piece of advice which I offered by email to Alexander was, there is a guide to doing ADUs, which was certainly the very first document that I got into my hands. I think looking at that for improvement and further revision, once the process is refined, you'll get better outcomes as well as residents.
Would you be willing to help with that? To look at it after it's been.
Without a doubt. Be delighted to. One other confusion that came about, just for interest, was the document discussed that after the flood, the town went to great lengths, and I'm sure had many meetings about changing the way utilities and connections were handled for ADUs. I used the word waive on my application, which created some confusion. Coming from the reading of that document, I think there's a number of different things that can just be more concise and clear. So there's clarity throughout the community what's happening or did not happen.
Yeah, thank you for the feedback, yeah. Okay, are there,
Yeah, I saw, planner painter, you mentioned the affordable aspect of this. So is there any type of memorialization / deed restriction that's being put on this because of that? Or that's just the applicant's intent to make it affordable?
Great question, Commissioner Hamrick. Yes, so the applicant is doing this out of the goodness of his heart. Exactly. There's not gonna be any deed restrictions to this property as of now. If he takes maybe a further route and wants to even subdivide and create a whole new dwelling on top of the ADU and take that approach with affordable housing or the unit itself, we can look at that down the road, but as of right now, no, it is just defining true affordable, no, but you price it by affordable rates at a market place.
Okay. And you mentioned splitting the property, because you're gonna have a garage that's you're gonna use personally.
Correct.
Okay, so you're gonna build a garage and now you're popping the top on it.
Which
So
works very well due to the floodplain development issues.
Fair enough.
That's the rise you're talking about, that.
Yeah.
Cars on wheels and.
the gates and.
Your insurance. I have a question. Did you, I mean, I was in the flood area, did you lose any, I know, like the property on this one side of you was flood property. Did you lose any buildings on the property during the flood? Is this replacing anything or?
My best understanding of what happened at 431 Avenue, because we're new buyers,
Okay.
is that the house was significantly damaged in the flood.
Mhm.
But then it was bought by a private individual who redeveloped it and lifted it 1 foot off of the existing foundation. And they were not allowed to build anything else other than the footprint of the existing foundation. And so that's what occurred there. And if you ever see the house, it's interesting. They cantilevered a couple parts of it. And there were different things that happened that were interesting, but in essence, that certainly was a flood damaged area. I'm nervous about the height of the house. Many of my neighbors went higher. Nonetheless, there was no insurance claim made on the property, so that's not in the record.
Okay, good, okay.
Yeah.
But does it meet the minimum, I mean, so does it meet the minimum that, do you have FEMA flood insurance to get, I know to
I
get.
certainly am flood
Yeah,
insured.
and then meet it, I know you have to be a certain height, I think, to even get insurance, so you must meet that,
And
yeah.
it's required by all financing.
Yeah, to say,
in this
yeah,
area, my bank would, I actually couldn't stop paying the insurance if I wanted to.
yeah, okay, yeah.
If you have a federally backed mortgage, you are required to hold leverage.
Yeah, okay, and this meets those, okay, yeah.
I would though, I've done some time also for the community volunteering on your behalf, and since you're down here, a little piece of value I could create, I'd love to talk in plain English directly about the affordability. There is no affordability covenants. However, when I modeled this up for myself to see what's possible to build there, I look at what it's gonna cost to build, I take a close detail of that, and I decide, is this reasonable in light of existing rates for similar apartments per square foot? And right now, what I'm seeing is it actually is possible for people with average means and lines to perhaps do a project like this and bring a new livable unit in such a way where it's not making a huge financial sacrifice to do it. So there's no technical affordability, but the affordability feature comes from the fact that markets right now do allow this type of development, 800 square foot apartment in a garage, within a context where somebody will get an apartment at or below what their prevailing rates are at the present time, so.
Due to square footage, basically.
Yeah, and also just cost of construction relaxed after timber prices came back down, and I'll be very direct, your decisions as a town to modify how utilities were looked at is a big difference between whether the rent there has to be 1,800 or 2,200 to actually make sense for a homeowner to want to do such a thing.
Any other questions from the commission? I do have one other question, and it's actually for the planners. Where in the process is there, the clarification or statement that the occupant will be primary residence of the primary building occupant for 6 months or more?
That is, we have that right here in the code. I can pull that up.
That's actually for short-term rentals, they have to be there 9 months of the year.
But it's not in the,
The resident has to live here permanently in one or the other structures.
Right.
for an ADU or for an ADU. So ADU is permanency versus,
I mean, they live there,
okay,
they live in one or the other.
Well, to be clear, my understanding was you have to be a permanent resident to apply and build. But the building can then be sold to another person in the future who can still have an apartment, or is that an incorrect understanding?
That's an incorrect understanding.
Okay,
I thought the code, because I just did some research on it, you had to be a primary occupant for 6 months of the year.
Right.
Right there.
We have to say it right here.
I actually spoke in support of that the other evening, and I think it's a really important piece that it's not outside spec developers being able to be authorized to do this kind of stuff.
Well, and that's where, yeah, we had some dialogue after you left, and I think it'd be good to, as Marnie mentioned, maybe have some dialogue from understand your thought process going through this, because we're looking at the entire code and trying to make it easier to do business and relax some of those requirements at the same time, not allow, some outside developers to come in and do that. So,
Yeah.
and there may be some creative ways we can take a look at that. Either,
One thing I would say very directly to you is affordability can be looked at both in terms of a new person gaining a home to live, but it also can be looked at from the point of view of the existing resident. And like
Oh,
for
sure,
me, this is a nice house, but there is no garage. The
right,
fact that I get a garage in exchange for providing this apartment,
Yeah.
in my view, enhances my own affordability as a resident and is appreciated.
yeah, exactly. And I think if somebody looked at building on that property, just an ADU and it absorbing the full cost, whereas in this case, you want to put a garage in, or it has dual purpose. And so it just makes it more economically feasible, maybe.
Yes, without a doubt.
But can we go back to clarify this then? If, my understanding is the owner or the owner's rep, meaning their child or whatever, must reside in one or the other homes. If you have if you divide it, and there's two separate families, and that's an R2. If you have it one lot with two unrelated families.
I hope you're correct. It
Yeah.
means a landlord can't come eventually buy the whole house and rent it to two separate families. A non-resident landlord.
To two in the primary unit or either one?
Or let's just pretend an outside person came and bought it with the ADU in the house.
Yes.
They can't live in Boulder and rent both the house and the ADU.
No.
I hope
The
that.
Yeah.
no, the
Under
primary-
current code.
the owner or their family must live in one of the residences.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, have to. And we do have a couple situations in town where people have done exactly that. And now both units are occupied by renters. And technically that's an R2, right? And so we're trying to deal with those folks too, but they've been like that for decades.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
But
it's a whole nother
in
issue.
this situation, the applicant has satisfied that condition. Yes. So, and the only reason for bringing up kind of technical is that somewhere in the staff report, there should be something to that effect so that, when we vote for it, we have documentation for basis for it.
We'll do, Chair, and I'll make sure that is added in.
We'll just in the minutes, will reflect that the staff report will be updated to include the, occupancy of one or the other units. Okay, are there other comments or questions, I should say, from the commission? Daru, do you have,
No, I don't.
questions?
I have one more question, may I ask one?
Sure.
I'm looking at the building, permit application now, and it talks about occupancy load and occupancy. If you look at this plan, you'll note that 800 square feet or a little less is actually enough to build a main bedroom and then what would be enough for a small child's bedroom to share a bathroom. That's feasible within that kind of space, which is what we tried to do, thinking it's a more useful space for that. I point that out. I don't know how that interrelates with any actual code on occupancy in ADUs. I'd be curious to learn. But I also just bring this up that was part of our design process.
It's 2 bedrooms and a bathroom.
Yes.
Oh, that's okay.
So that's a wonderful element of, as far as affordability, of providing housing for a broader range of potential residents.
yeah, I agree. I think there's no occupancy limits, but there is a square footage based on the
Size.
primary house, yeah. A maximum 800 square feet, which I notice you're right under that, so. And personally, that's something else as we look at ADUs, potentially removing that cap or doing something, giving more flexibility, because it could be limiting.
I will say I did find that 800 is enough to potentially have a single parent or.
I used to have 100 square foot condo and I would have easily been able to,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, my daughter lives in Chicago. That's kind of standard size for an apartment. For
800 is actually
you can
very,
afford.
that's a lot of square footage, actually can do a lot of.
Okay, so, any other documents that we, should look at prior?
The only thing left I wanted to bring to the commission, I thought about this over the past few days, was being that this parcel is about 14,000 square feet. It could be subdivided down the road if the option was to arise, and if you wanted to, it may never even happen. But with the ADU going underneath on the south portion of the house, my concern was if it was to be subdivided down the road, that we should have maybe a condition to where if it does get subdivided, it'd be subdivided from north to south rather than east to west, so it doesn't break the ADU from the principal building.
Maintains its association with the
Exactly.
principal building.
And because that's the agreement upon constructing this ADU is that it will be established with the primary residence.
So you're suggesting that would be a condition?
The condition that if a subdivision, minor subdivision was gonna take place, that we would look at the idea of, make it that it would be a minor subdivision from north to south rather than east to west. I could pull the property, maybe a little.
yeah, break it off.
Commissioner, can I get a question?
Yeah, it's related to this. I'm just wondering if, based on the layout, if that matters and if that's something that's needed to specify right now. Like, is it possible that if you subdivided it, then the garage would just still remain an ADU and you'd build a new principal residence on, you know, or, right, like,
It It's possible to allow that, but the fact that this is being built, knowing that is supposed to be pertaining to the principal unit, to subdivide the ADU away from the principal unit and say, well, I intend to maybe throw a new house on the eastern portion of the property, like if it got subdivided from east to west, and then the ADU's here, and it breaks apart from here, you could possibly throw up another primary dwelling unit there. Possibly,
It just seems like with setbacks and all that, it'd get awful tight.
Yeah.
it would,
So I don't personally like that idea.
okay,
And I'd leave it for later for the applicant to deal with if he ever wants to cross that bridge.
that's
Right,
fine.
so the condition may be on the, attempt to subdivide the property as opposed to at this time.
That's correct.
So David, you're suggesting to not include that condition at this time? And
I guess, because, I mean, I think it requires a lot more due diligence. And it just seems like right now, with that one wing of the house jutting out, if you subdivide it, is that part of the permanent structure, that roof?
So in looking at this myself, the house is over the center line.
That's where I'm going, and it just seems like, yeah, it just seems messy right now.
Okay.
If we put that as a condition in this resolution, so.
But we might put a note in the file, that the question came up and the PCDC preference was that it would be dealt with at a future, land use review process.
Okay.
If one applies.
Will do. Thank you, Chair.
I was gonna say, I could see those, would be talked about now, but I could see like, my guess is there are sheds in the southeast corner, is that a shed or something of some sort? I could see putting more of like a permanent house there, associating the ADU, the east-west, but maybe we'll do that, Doug, but I'm thinking too much creatively, but I'm not sure we want to think that way, but okay.
We moved down there because we like the space.
That's the thing, yeah, but still, yeah.
Yeah, so, if there are no other questions, do I hear a motion?
I mean, Chair,
Yes.
this is a public hearing and
Yes.
and perhaps I didn't hear, but I don't think we ever opened the public hearing. We certainly need to close that if we have before.
We haven't, but
Oh,
okay, yeah, well, someone came in after we should have opened the public hearing.
Okay, so we
Just
we need to open and close and
Yeah.
make sure no one in the public or online wants to talk.
So we'll open the public hearing.
I'm a co-owner of the house.
Right. So, are there any people present or online who would like to comment under public hearing? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and, open the floor to, motion.
Sure. Is it, I move that the PCDC approve and recommend resolution number 2024-02, conditional use for an attached accessory dwelling unit at 431 Evans Street.
Should be
Huh?
detailed.
Yeah,
Detached, excuse me, detached ADU at 431 Evans Street.
Okay, is there a second?
so moved.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any additional discussion? Not. Call for the vote.
oh, yes.
We need Dave, there you go, he did a thumbs up.
Motion passes unanimously.
The room. And you,
Oh,
He did.
I gave it a thumbs up.
okay. So it moves, it passes unanimously.
That's it for this one.
Thank you very much.
The planning.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Yes.
And thank you for contributing to the housing.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it'd be,
we need your opinion and thoughts to make it easier for people, yeah.
It's been interesting the moment I walk in this next meeting, it's not only ADUs, but housing, I'm in the thick of it, so delighted to see at least right now a new person sees it.
Okay, we do have
Yeah.
another item on the agenda. Information regarding Boulder County Community Planning and Permitting. Zoning map. And.
Thank you. I'm gonna do this one.
Okay.
As you are probably aware, in September of 2023, the Boulder County Commissioners instituted a zoning moratorium on 19 different properties that lie within Lyons 3 Mile planning area. Should probably put that up on the, do you still have your computer up? Oh, you just put it on.
Just put it on the charger.
You're okay.
Do you want the plan or?
The map.
Is that?
It's in both of them, actually. So, they instituted a moratorium on zoning for any commercial, industrial, or, high-intensity zone other than residential and ag. So the staff have since done their research, and I was contacted, on Friday last week that they have scheduled the public hearing on this, at the Boulder County Planning Commission level on Wednesday, February 21st. And they want to know if the town is interested in giving, either a response to what they're going to recommend, and if so, I would like to ask you to place this on your next planning commission agenda. What we are being told is the staff is recommending that everything within Lyons 3 Mile area that is currently zoned commercial or general industrial will be rezoned to ag.
Ag. Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
so could you repeat that again?
Yeah, repeat it again.
Sure.
Yes, that was my initial reaction. So the map is up there now. There's 19 parcels involved. That are currently zoned commercial, general industrial, or transitional. And they are going to recommend, because they all lie within the floodplain, and they think the use has changed since they were originally zoned. They think the most appropriate use, as long as they are in unincorporated Boulder County, is ag. Everyone who's currently there will be grandfathered in, but upon a sale, or a change of use, they have to be used as ag.
Does this apply just to Lyons or just by the entire county?
It's everything
With the
in unincorporated Boulder
Yeah,
County
yeah,
in Lyons 3 Mile area.
Lyons 3 miles.
So first response, I know what you're thinking right now. As Andrew and I have started talking about this, I can see what they're trying to do, but I do think there is an impact, potentially to future development in our 3 Mile area if these are zoned ag, if they change. So, they are wanting to know if you want to be giving input or like a referral response, or come to the public hearing on the 21st and give a statement of how we feel about this. So they said their packet will be going out on February 14th if you want to participate in a written statement. Otherwise, we would need to sign up to present on February 21st. So I'd like to leave that with you tonight, really, as much just information, and then ask that you maybe put it on your February, let's see what's your agenda, February 12th agenda for discussion and direction.
So without extending the discussion too long, the PCDC had previously recommended that one approach to working with Boulder County was to request that parcels could be subdivided for annexation.
Mhm.
Is that something we should be thinking about as we approach it at that next meeting?
In this moratorium. I'm not so sure that, I mean, we discussed that in regard to IGA parcels. I don't know that it was discussed during moratorium, or maybe you guys did, but I don't know if it applies in the moratorium. One of the things that the staff indicated was they feel like it should encourage annexation into Lyons for those parcels that are contiguous. So if you want to remain commercial and sell your property, you'll need to annex. If you are okay with going ag, then so be it, but that will be its new zoning moving forward,
So,
which then eliminates the possibility of future development for us.
so has this passed legal muster? Or I realize it's in the concept stage, but it seems like taking property away almost from.
They're grandfathering everyone who's.
I understand that, but if I own one of these properties out here that's industrial, a stone, you know, yeah, and now I have to sell it at ag prices.
I know.
I don't know what the
I would
market's like.
guess they certainly have a whole slew of attorneys, so I'm sure they weigh in on that, but we'll have to see what they do at this public hearing, but they wanted to make sure we were aware that it's been scheduled. And if we want to make comment, this is our opportunity.
So is there scope also outside the Lions 3 mile area? They're looking at other unincorporated areas or just, I'm just curious why Lions 3 mile
Yes,
area?
They said it was because of our IGA negotiations, looking further than just our
Okay,
immediate area. And then also, as they looked at it, they said they realized every one of these parcels is in a floodplain. And they're much more strict on their floodplain regulations
Okay.
and building than the town.
so the IGA discussion or thought teed this up, I guess, is what it sounds like.
I think.
Okay.
Okay, if there's, if there are no other items to bring before the commission, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Yeah, I'll.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, just, aye. Okay, we are adjourned.
So the DOT's doing the same thing